So when you think about artificial intelligence, what's your gut reaction? Is it this wave of excitement for the future, or is it more like a knot of fear in your stomach? Well, what if I told you the correct answer is actually both?
And hey, don't just take my word for it. That's a quote from AI expert Toby Walsh. This is a guy who's been deep in his field for 50 years. And he says this constant tension, this pull between incredible promise and serious peril, well, that's the real story of AI. And that's the journey we're going to go on today.
All right, so let's dig into that central conflict. Why are we so torn? To really get it, we first have to understand the basic technology that has just suddenly exploded everywhere.
Okay, so you've heard of ChatGPT, right? At the heart of tools like that are things called large language models, or LLMs for short. Now, that sounds super technical and complicated, but there's a surprisingly simple way to think about what these things are actually doing.
Really, at their core, they are just incredibly sophisticated pattern matchers. They've basically read a giant chunk of the internet, and from that, they've learned to predict what comes next. The most likely next word, the next sentence, or even a whole paragraph. It's kind of like the autocomplete on your phone, just, on a scale that is almost impossible to imagine.
And because this technology is so unbelievably powerful, it has kicked off this global gold rush, and it's all happening at a speed that we have literally never seen before in human history.
Just take a look at this number. $3 trillion. That's the valuation of NVIDIA. They're the ones who make the special computer chips. They're basically selling the shovels in this AI gold rush. And because of that, they've become one of the most valuable companies on the entire planet.
And it's not just the amount of money, it's the sheer speed of it all. Before ChatGPT, OpenAI had pretty much zero income. Just 1 year later, they hit $1 billion in revenue. $1 billion. That makes them the fastest growing company ever, in any field. And that really just highlights the insane scale of this gamble. We're talking billions of dollars being poured into this stuff every single day, with huge companies and entire countries making these massive bets, all hoping to strike it rich.
So, what is the prize they're all chasing? What's the big promise that could possibly justify these mind-boggling bets? Well, it's the vision of a world that is safer, way more productive, and, fundamentally, better.
Let's just take work, for example. Think about an office just 50 years ago. It was full of typing pools, memos, carbon copies. Everything was so slow. Today we have AI co-pilots that can draft our emails, analyze huge spreadsheets, and just speed up our workflow in ways that would have been pure science fiction back then.
And here's the potential payoff of all that. Companies are experimenting with a 4-day work week, and with these AI productivity boosts, they're finding people can get the exact same amount of work done in less time. And guess what? They're happier. A lot happier.
But this promise, it goes so far beyond just making our jobs easier. Think about this. Most traffic accidents are caused by simple human error. AI-powered autonomous cars could, potentially, get that number down to almost zero. We're talking about saving thousands of lives every single year.
But, and you knew there was a but. With that incredible promise comes some pretty terrifying peril. So let's flip the coin over and look at the things that feed into the very real fears so many of us have about where this is all going. I think this is a perfect way to describe one of the biggest fears. Remember the Wizard of Oz? The great and powerful Oz was really just one guy behind a curtain, pulling levers, controlling the whole show. The worry now is that we're seeing something similar. A handful of tech leaders behind a digital curtain, controlling the story for billions of people. And how do they get that power? Well, it's because they have what's basically a data monopoly. A company like Google has collected so much of our data over the years that it's become almost impossible for anyone else to even compete. That gives them a massive advantage and a frightening amount of influence over our lives. Now, where this gets really, truly chilling is when we talk about warfare. We started with drones that were flown by human pilots. Then the other side developed ways to jam the radio signals. So the next logical and, frankly, terrifying step? A fully autonomous drone that doesn't need a pilot, a drone that makes its own decisions. And let me be perfectly clear, this is not some far-off future thing. It's happening right now. We know that AI algorithms, with code names like Lavender, are already being used in conflicts to pick out potential targets based on probability. And sometimes, that comes with huge, tragic collateral damage. And this leads us to a huge, thorny question that our legal systems just have no answer for. Our entire concept of justice is built to hold people accountable. You can't put an algorithm on trial. You can't send a drone to jail. So when an AI makes a fatal mistake, who is responsible? Okay, I know that all sounds pretty daunting, but here's the final and honestly the most important part of this whole story. This future is not inevitable. It's not set in stone. We as a society, we have agency. We actually get to decide what our future with AI looks like.
You know, we've faced huge, disruptive, even dangerous forces before. We've figured out how to write laws for big oil and big tobacco. We came together as a planet and created international agreements to ban horrible things like chemical weapons and blinding lasers. We can and we do set rules.
The big challenge with AI, though, is that it's a classic example of what's called a dual-use technology. And that just means that the exact same innovation can be used for something incredibly good or for something truly awful.
And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the dilemma. The exact same object recognition AI that lets a self-driving car see a person and swerve to avoid them is the exact same technology that an autonomous drone can use to find a soldier and target them.
Which brings us right back to this fundamental idea. The technology itself doesn't decide our future. We do. Our choices do. We have the power to decide how these incredibly powerful tools get used, and just as importantly, where they don't.
So in the end, AI isn't good or evil. It's not the hero or the villain. It's a tool. It just happens to be the most powerful tool humanity has ever invented. And that leaves us with the real question. It's not about what the AI will do. It's about what we will choose to do with it. What kind of world are we going to build?